Welcome to Being Conscious, a podcast about evolving consciously. We are not blank slates, right? We are all born with genetics, epigenetics of impressions, and too often we live that with those impressions all our life without ever noticing that we've been inherited. We've inherited a lot of genetics and epigenetics of behaviors that we probably have never noticed. So this podcast is for the folks who have started noticing that a lot of your impressions are what you are about. And today we're going to be talking about a lot of accomplished founders, people who have built companies, who have built schools, who have created movements, and how they have started noticing their inner workings, their impressions, and how they've evolved themselves to become so great, so successful. So this podcast is all about that. How do we evolve consciously by recognizing our inner working, and how do we grow inwards? How inner growth is outer success, and that's what we're going to talk about. So with me today, I have two very accomplished guests, Dr. Shailesh Kumar, who is extremely accomplished. He's a chief AI scientist. He studied his bachelor's from IIT. He did his PhD from UT Austin in artificial intelligence. He's worked in a lot of great organizations like Microsoft, Google, and most importantly, he's been teaching management and entrepreneurship to thousands of people across various management schools, including organizations like Indian School of Business and Management School, most prominent management schools out here in India. So we're going to have him share his views, and we also have Pavan. Pavan is very accomplished entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. He's too young to be a serial entrepreneur, but for over a decade, he's built something very interesting. He's been educating a lot of young generation on how to become successful entrepreneurs. This is his second stint. Pavan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Why don't you share your story?
Yeah, so I've come from a very small place called Vijayanagaram. I've done my schooling there, went to VIT Vellore, got my first startup idea there in college, fourth year of engineering. I saw a lot of parents waiting outside the school bus stops. I thought, why don't we replicate Uber for school buses, where parents can track their kids? In fact, I named it Track My Kid. And I went to my management, college management. I've told that I've got this idea. But, we wanted to create like a project in the final year project. But somewhere, I read the stories of emerging entrepreneurs back then, Ritesh Agarwal and all of them, who are of similar age, but they've been running their companies. And then I thought, why don't we run a company? Then I've come to Hyderabad. At that time, T-Hub was just starting. In fact, they launched their first campus inside IIIT. And then I went with that idea of school bus tracking systems. Then a lot of fellow entrepreneurs, they started asking me, what's my business model? What's my financial model? In fact, I didn't have a company back then. So I thought registering a company and all, I didn't know about all of that. I was a computer science and engineering graduate. Then I realized, okay, for us to start an entrepreneurial journey, we need to have a company. We need to have a strong financial business model and all of that. Then somehow I figured out, and then took about 2 years for me to launch that idea. I went to one of the schools. They had about 100 buses. I thought, this is it. I thought I'd become India's top entrepreneur back then. I went to the second school. They said, we already have this idea. We already have someone giving it for almost free of cost. Went to the third school, fourth school, realized that I've lost the market opportunity because a lot of them are already doing it. And I've done nothing unique there. Then I realized, why didn't we have entrepreneurship curriculum where people get to know about how to start their companies and all back in the school level itself? Then I've started a company called Metamorphosis. This was in 2017. Wanted to transform from academic thinking to entrepreneurial thinking amongst the students. Then scaled it up to about 100,000 plus students across India, where few of the schools made it as a mandated course, entrepreneurship course. And we are the first ones in the world to introduce entrepreneurship as a curriculum at the school level. And in 2023, we got acquired by a company called Pride Chance. And after that, I realized after 12th grade, again, the students are going to the typical colleges which most of us went through, where there is not much entrepreneurial thinking there in the college. I thought, why don't we have a full stack ecosystem, right from academics to the campus to everything? Everyone think entrepreneurial there. Then started Bauer. So Bauer means shade of a tree. With metamorphosis, we did butterflies. I wanted to bring all the butterflies under one roof, under one shade. Hence the name Bauer. So we started this about 1.5 years ago with one pure thought: how can we build a full stack ecosystem while right from K-12, a school student to an undergrad student to anyone that thinks entrepreneurial here. And anyone who wants to get their foundations, which we missed in the college, they will get their foundations here and they'll also apply for their own ideas. And we provide end-to-end support to the colleges. That's what I've done in the last 10 years.
Fantastic. Dr. Shailesh, you've been teaching management. You've seen a lot of youngsters like Pavan. You've seen hundreds, thousands of budding entrepreneurs, founders wanting to get into management. Can you share your experience on how did you get into this field of, educating and giving back?
Yeah. So, as times are evolving, the needs of the countries are evolving, the aspirations of students are evolving, our education system is not evolves. And that kind of is something that brings me and Pawan together to say, how do we now reimagine what education should look like in the new context of India, right? And one of the problems I realized was that we have created a caste system in India in terms of domain thinkers who learn about agriculture domain, healthcare domain, law school, and all of that, and business schools. And then we have another caste called digital thinkers who learn about coding and building platforms and AI and data science. And in the last 20 years, what I saw was that when I bring these two people together, they're not able to build solutions because they don't even know how to talk to each other anymore. And this is one of the core problems, that we are not innovating enough because we are teaching in silos. You will learn how to build, you will learn what to build, and then somehow we will build something. It's not happening. And companies after companies, just domains after domains, I'm seeing the same problems, that our chartered accountants and our finance guys know what to do, but they don't have a platform. Therefore, they're using emails and whatever to do their job. So this was the problem that I wanted to solve, right? And I love your story about you saw a problem and you wanted to, head on solve that problem. And that spirit, right, is very important. And so I want to solve that problem. So I created a curriculum where I want to teach a student to become a domain thinker and also a tech savvy person at the same time. Now, this is possible only in this era. In the last 6 months, what has changed is that the ChatGPT and those tools have become so good that if I'm a computer scientist, I can do deep research in any domain and learn a domain quickly. And on the other side, if I'm a domain person, I can actually build a platform because Claude and all that is there. So the real context that we live in now is very special and different, which is a domain and a digital divide that we had created in our education system is now closing again. And if we recognize that, we will be able to create amazing, innovators, because an innovation cannot happen when these two people are not talking to each other.
Yeah.
Now we are able to produce a single person who is both tech savvy and a domain expert, and he can bring the solutions that the world needs. And that, I think, is a foundation thesis of why we want to create a new kind of both an education system at a larger scale and a course at a smaller scale, which I teach both in IITs as well as IIMs. And then I see the divide. And especially if I go to universities where they have a computer science and AI department and an agriculture department, I bring students from both to learn that course. So deliberately, we want to now bridge that gap and make them think like the other person. Only then we'll be able to create great, systems for the country.
I think it's great. I think I personally, having traveled globally, worked with organizations globally, and been in this, what you're trying to build is a character as a curriculum. This reminds me of the book As a Man Thinketh, right? Too often I see a lot of people want to become something and they start acting on it, right? Their life starts from action, not from thinking. As a Man Thinking very clearly says, a character is formed from habits. Habits are formed from action. Action is formed from vocabulary, and vocabulary is formed from the way you think. Right? I haven't seen that anywhere in the world, what you guys are building at Bauer for School of Entrepreneurship, because I feel like, so this, the idea of how to create this character or thinking as a curriculum, where did you get that from?
Yeah, so one is necessity is the mother of invention. I saw the necessity, domain after domain, company after company. I saw that people who have this don't have this, and people had this don't have this, and they're struggling, and they're not able to communicate with each other. So it was very obvious that you cannot produce great invention if we don't have the two things coming together, right? Like, for example, Pavan would have to have acquired the domain knowledge of how school buses work, what is security, what is tracking, and he had to learn the digital aspect of GPS and all of that to build an app, right? So, like that, without combining these two, we cannot build solutions. So that was the first thing. The second thing that I realized is people can build things that can destroy humanity or redeem humanity. And that has to come from a deeper consciousness, right? Is this something we should be building, right? And today, many people are building things, not everything is very useful, right? So, for example, if one of the AI companies launches a model that says you can just take 5 minutes of recording of a person and create a voice bot, half of the world will be able to use it in a positive way, half of the world will use it in a very negative. Now the question is, we are both innovators. The guy who is doing cyber attacks is also an innovator in his own way. And the guy who is doing something positive for society is also an innovator. Yeah. So innovation without a value system is not a complete innovation system. So in Bauer, we want to create all the four legs of innovation, right? How do you create a value system that you think positively about the right ideas the world needs? How do you become a visionary and not think small and make a big impact on society and work backwards? How do you understand domains and digital equally and give equal importance to all of that, right? So if we create such, and obviously, what is that spirit of entrepreneurship? And I believe, like, you cannot teach MBA to somebody and expect him to become a great leader. Yeah. You cannot teach B.Ed to a person and expect her to become a great teacher. I don't think that entrepreneurship is something that can be taught from outside. It is a quality of the soul who wants to be innovative and have an impact on society. And such a quality, when it gets the right direction, right opportunity, right problem to solve, will flourish, right? So the seed is there or not there. Once the seed is there, we need to make sure that no seed of an entrepreneur is unflourished. Yeah. And creating ecosystems for that is very important. And if you look at the success of Bay Area, for example, it's just amazing, right? Anybody, wants to be an entrepreneur. I myself, I finished my 5 years at Google, and then I said, what to do next? And I said, I had this urge to change the education system, so I built an estate startup. And like the fact that I built it gave me a lot of satisfaction. The fact that it didn't succeed was not a issue, right? And that is never in your hand. And that is another quality, right? How do you pivot? How do you be resilient to failures, right? And how do you find that, like, oh, I'm late to market. I found that I was early to market. Some people blame it on that, right? So anything can happen. But this whole thing, right? The ups and downs, the finding the right problem to work on, learning the domain, learning the digital to get it done, make money out of it. All this is an amazing, and now I'm working with one of the biggest entrepreneurs of India, Mr. Ambani, and I learned a lot from him, right? I'll give you one example. So when I was joining Reliance, somebody told me that, they decided that telecom is a very important thing for India. Right? We cannot pay others or pay so much heavy for such an important infrastructure. And, obviously they built the first version, it didn't work. They built the second version, it didn't work. And they kept doing it, kept trying it, kept trying it. And it was the seventh attempt that they got it right. And then they, scaled it up. That spirit is what, once you decide that this is a worthy problem for the country to solve, you don't worry about, will I be able to do it or will I fail or succeed? You keep trying because it is a worthy problem to solve. So I learned a very important lesson. Another lesson I learned from him was the first time I went, he said, Shailesh, give me your vision statement or I'll give you mine. And that is another thing that entrepreneurs do, which is if they don't have their own idea of what they want to work on, somebody else will tell you what to work on. Yeah. And that is something that you have to decide, whether you want to work on your ideas or what you work on the other people like. And when I gave him a vision document, he gave me the next lesson. He said, vision without execution is illusion. Vision without execution is illusion. So you can have a great vision, but if you don't know how to execute, you will not achieve that, right? It will be in a PPT and all of that. And this is one of my, uh, you know, uh, weaknesses, that I'm not a good executioner. I can vision, right? And he understood that and he tried to prompt me with that. So I think vision and execution are both important to become a great entrepreneur. Value system has to define what your vision should be, save the world or destroy the world, and the ability to execute. All this, if we put together in a curriculum, that's what we are trying to build. How to be a great visionary, how to be a great executor of that vision, and how to be an ethical leader. If we combine these three, we'll create a new kind of program, and I'm very happy that Babar is taking the lead.
So let's take that cue, because before I go back to Pawan, I want to ask you this. You talked about Mr. Ambani, you talked about Jio, and you have a ringside view of what entrepreneurship is at scale, right? You talked about two things which are very helpful, but one other thing that I've noticed, and help me understand this, I also see that they are very conscious, how they treat the nature, how they look at the community at large, and their role of humanity at large, right? Can you shed some light as some responsibilities you have and you've noticed in the close quarter as a successful entrepreneur? What else is your responsibility, and how do you look at that balanced act where material is not the only purpose?
Yes.
And how do you define that? So shed some light for us, because
Yeah. So when we when we hear the word entrepreneur, we think, oh, equity, shares, richness, that kind of, right? But entrepreneurship is more about, I care about the problem or an idea. I also care about the people working on it, because I care about the quality of people working on it. I care about the intent and purity of the people working on it. So there are many things to it. It's not just the money part will come, right? Like Google, for example, when it started, they did not have a business model. They did not know how will they make money on it. For 5 years, they just kept improving the search engine, improving the search engine. And when somebody asked, hey, we should do marketing, our search engine is not getting used enough, Larry asked, is our search engine better than others? And they said, no, it is not better than others. And he said, no market. I will not spend a single dollar on marketing unless we improve the quality. That is authenticity, right? That is a spirit that we want to give the best before we start making money or even deserve to make money. And that honesty and is part of the regional system. Same thing with Mr. Money. He wants to take whatever India needs, right? The oil was a problem. So, they brought the refinery into India. And today we are benefiting from that, right? We are able to export a lot of oil, right? So when these people think, they think at a very, very large scale, at a country scale, at 100-year scale. And that is the bigness of their vision, right? If you look at the numbers, he wants to bring, down the cost of compute now with data centers. So they're not solving the problem of the day, right? The issue of the day. They're thinking very strategically about how large infrastructure for the country have to go forward. That kind of visionary thinking and the ability to execute, with bringing the right Nobel laureates and experts and, bringing together people, an entrepreneur will not know everything about everything.
Yeah.
And this open-mindedness to learn, to bring the right people, create the right team, make them cohesive and focus them on the vision is a very important quality. You can always be the, Sutradhar.
Yeah.
But you cannot play all the instruments. You need all the instruments player also. So, an inclusive nature and all of that, right? And being grateful that they have decided to participate in your vision to take it forward. So there are human qualities, there are visionary qualities, there are execution qualities that I see in how, these great leaders work.
And
Absolutely. No, this is great. Because coming to the qualities, right? I mean, I find a lot of those qualities existing in Pavan, right? When he is building Power, right? He's one of the thought leaders in educating entrepreneurship. And what I've noticed is those qualities where I see the people he's surrounded by, the empathy that he has, that he's not just teaching, right? You're not just focused on teaching numbers. Now, especially today, Pawan, that humanity as it is at the very interesting and good inflection or disruption intersection with the advent of AI, with the amount of distraction, and with the amount of information, especially what Gen Zs and Gen Alphas are seeing, where you're helping them define a purpose and you're helping them evolve their consciousness to achieve their purpose and acquire a lot of wisdom. Because I've seen you that you're surrounded by a lot of people who are far older than you.
yes.
And we feel a little bit intimidated looking at, how you approach things. But I'm so impressed, and it always shows that, you being a thought leader of teaching entrepreneurship in India, what is your understanding of what is required for this next generation, beyond just the outer layer? What are some of the inner workings that they have to focus on, especially when we are at such a interesting intersection in this modern era of AI?
Yeah. I think the first thing that what I have practiced and also what I always tell others is patience, staying patient, because often we lose focus when we do not see immediate results. So how do we stick to the vision? How do we stay focused? How do we stay patient? Second thing is thinking big. How can we kind of, every day by day, because I believe in this, if at all today I'm at X position, tomorrow morning, how do I aim for X plus 1, X plus 2, X plus 3 every day? How do we progress on taking the vision bigger and massive? And the third thing is empathy, right? I mean, that is one of the things that probably, I always practice or I'm good at, is to how do we kind of think about others, if at all I'm really solving the problem for others. It could be customers, it could be investors. Am I really providing a value to them? If not, Bauer, if at all they're investing elsewhere, can they make more money there? But how am I actually showcasing that? And also to the students, of course, right? I mean, what is the stage of the idea that they're in? What is the stage of the life that they're in? Am I actually empathetic enough so that I can step into their shoes so that we both can actually talk in the same language? So these are few things that I always think about. And the final thing is, how do you stay true to yourself? This is something that I always ask. All right. I mean, am I celebrating for something which where there is no action to it, or do I deserve an applause? Right. I mean, because end of the day, as an entrepreneur, you know whether you are going in the right direction or not. Right. While we lot of them portray that what is not there, I think they are not going to see towards the end of the funnel for sure. But if at all you are staying true to yourself, where while you are fixing things whenever there is needed, or you will step into a pit stop where you will rethink again and you will reimagine again and then move forward. So staying true to yourself is something that I always practice.
So that's a great point, right? So what I've seen at Bauer is you're not just teaching skill set, you're teaching the mindset, right? And you talked about true to yourself. How do you help these young founders, potential founders, when they're coming in a very formative stage, when they're so used to so much information being thrown at them? How do you convince them that knowing yourself is the first stage of entrepreneurship? Know thyself,
Yeah.
right? Because if you don't know yourself, there's always this information that is thrown at you at various different social channels that the first win could be the last win, especially somebody like you who's come back second time, third time, becoming an entrepreneur because your mission is yet not accomplished. Right? You want to see Indian youth becoming entrepreneurs, not blindly pursuing intellect as the only purpose of life,
Yeah.
right? So how do you sum up? How do you tell these young founders that know yourself and consciousness, right? Because too often entrepreneurship is about purpose.
Yeah.
Like what some purpose can be making money, but how do you give them an ability to say purpose is accomplished by knowing yourself? Because that's the point you're saying, know yourself.
Correct.
How does Bauer help people
Right.
to know themselves in their formatives?
Right. So the practical approach towards this is how do we kind of expose them for, I mean, where they can actually find their passion. Right. It could be through internships. It could be through conversations like this, where we recommend them to follow a lot of podcasts, thought leaders, interact with the thought leaders. In last year, we had about 120 founders that walked into the campus. So each one of them have talked to them, interacted with them. In fact, if at all someone who wants to do a curriculum on mental wellness, there are actually speakers, into that space where they have actually interacted with them. So one is through exposure, and the practical exposure is something that we focus on. Second thing is, again, through a lot of mentorship, right? I mean, one thing that I recommend, in fact, what is working out for me is having mentors where, we bounce a lot of ideas. We talk about our state of mind. We talk about the state of the company, and kind of someone who has already done it will come and, guide us. So mentorship and exposure, these are the two big weapons, which if at all we can go more deeper into that, right? I mean, exposure could be in the form of immersions, taking them to probably what's happening at T-Works in Hyderabad, what's happening at a museum in Hyderabad, what's happening in the real, I went to Numaish, the exhibition that happens in Hyderabad. The number of thoughts that I've carried back and then went to my boardroom and started talking about it is immense. Then I recommended to all the students that go to Numaish. See, look at their business model. How can someone sell a blanket at 50 rupees? While all the competitors are sitting on the same stall, they're all selling. One guy is selling at 50, and another guy is selling at 70. Look at their negotiation skills, look at the actual practice, the actual entrepreneurship lies there. I've written a very big LinkedIn post about that. Right. So that genuine or the organic way of learning entrepreneurship is something that I always recommend to the students.
Yeah. Fantastic. So, Dr. Shailesh, coming back to you, you're teaching a way of life to people, right? You're not just teaching a skill set, right? As an entrepreneur, is success. How should people look at entrepreneurship, especially the young generation? Should they look at entrepreneurship as success, or should they look at entrepreneurship as way of life? When you look at life, a lot of people live. I'm not sure how many people observe their living. Right. So, can you shed some light for these young entrepreneurs how do they look at entrepreneurship, and why is entrepreneurship versus employment when you look at what is that you get in entrepreneurship beyond just starting a company?
Yeah. See, the dearest thing that we have as we become conscious is our uh, ability to assert ourselves, our freedom of thought, right? And in a job, you will never get a freedom of thought. You will always be doing what somebody is telling you. But if you have a deep desire to solve a problem, and if that desire is not manifested, either because you were working for the wrong company or not pursuing entrepreneurship, you will have that thing with you forever, right? I wish I could have solved that problem, right? When it's just that. So I think that authenticity that you talked about. Now, obviously, not everybody's circumstances will allow them to say, okay, I'm going to leave everything and be honest, right? So therefore the ecosystem, therefore the funding, therefore the Startup India and Make in India and all of that, right? And schools and all of that. So we need ecosystems, but the seed has to be yours. The ecosystem cannot make entrepreneurs if it is not there in people, right? And today, like you said earlier, India needs a lot more entrepreneurs and innovators because we are way behind than China and US in the technology deep tech space. We are very good at, jugaad technology and whatever, but we need to build real deep tech companies out of India and solve large problems for the country. And I think that spirit that if I ask a student today, why do you go to school? They will say, I go to school because I have an exam to give. I'm preparing for an IIT. Nobody says that I love chemistry. I have a sense of wonder in the subject. See, that is the first thing our schools have killed, which is a sense of joy and wonder in that. Because if I tell you that you're going to have an exam after Harry Potter book, you're not going to enjoy the book as much.
Yeah.
So that joy has been sucked out of the art of learning itself. The second is we are not telling them the purpose of learning at all. We are giving them a wrong purpose of learning. We're telling them you have to master this, you have to get a good grade, you have to get into I. The purpose of education never can be just test taking and becoming a professional test taker.
Yeah.
If we give them that purpose, and this is why, Bauer and we wanted to start in the school level itself and change the purpose of education itself and say, look at the world around you. What would you like to change? What is not working for you? It could be anything. And that Buddha moment we talked about, if we give them early on, people will learn what they learn with a lot more joy and passion because they're learning towards a purpose. Oh, I want India to become the best military in the world. I want to invent the next missile. Therefore, I'm learning quadratic equations now. As opposed to I'm learning quadratic equation because I have to give an exam. That if we switch, that will create a new kind of movement in the country and say we have a purpose-driven education system, right? A child comes from a farmer's family, saw the drought, saw the, suicides in the village. He should be passionate about, what can I do for agriculture? He should want to learn how satellite works, how, weather prediction works, how advisory works, how AI works. That guy will be a much better student of AI than somebody who's just learning AI to get a better job or a better this. So I think the purpose of education has to be the first thing we have to put in our education system, and that will change how we learn and what we learn because the why has been put first. Why we learn has been transformed. So I think, and entrepreneurs are also looking for the why, right? Why do they exist? What problem they want to solve, right? It's not just, oh, my goal is to make more money. The Hotmail guy or any inventor, right? The other thing is I quote this often, Henry Ford's quote, and Steve Jobs also said that, right? If you ask your customer what they want, Henry Ford said they would ask for a faster horse because they cannot imagine that a car is possible. That's another job of an entrepreneur, to create a non-linear shift in what the art of possible is, right? And that comes from deep intuition, a vision of the future, right? The ability to scale.
Yeah.
I'd say, can I think differently than just doing the same old thing faster and better?
Yeah.
And the Wright brothers, if you will, were entrepreneurs because they said, no, we can keep building cars forever and become better cars and Ferraris. Or when will we fly?
Yeah.
That spirit is what made them fail and fail and fail. And suddenly one day they were able to fly. And that spirit we have to create in India, right? And if we can create that spirit, we will go places.
And also to add to that, right? I think entrepreneurship journey itself is the most complex journey, right? Once you see that journey, I think rest of the things becomes very easier. I was telling, to my team and also to the family also that we have chosen a very complex path. Everything else becomes very easy for us. So a lot of them, they've asked me, why are you not celebrating? I recently got married, right? I mean, a lot of them, they've asked me, "Aap kitna parties kiya aap log," and all of that. I said, yeah, we've been doing all of that. But the excitement might not show on my face, while I might be excited, is because, I'm actually solving something very complex. Right? And also, I was a very big time tennis player. I played under 14 nationals also. Now, after becoming entrepreneur, whatever I used to lack in my tennis, in my previous career, today I'm doing really good at that also. Because I've got nothing to lose, because I know that I'm solving something bigger. If at all I have fear of my second serve before an entrepreneurial journey, now my fear of second service is gone because I'm solving something bigger. Right? So I think I don't know, consciously or unconsciously, the fears what you have will be gone if at all you go through this journey of entrepreneur, because there are a lot many other fears that you're actually trying to solve there. Rules.
Very interesting, Pawan. I think you gave a beautiful framework for me to think about. Very unique framework, right? From your experience. What you said is I'm able to subtract, when I have a mission or a purpose, I'm able to subtract things that are not important. Plus, I'm able to ignore things that come at my way, because society, humanity will throw a lot of things at you. You need to be ignorant to a lot of things, because otherwise everything will start sticking. And you said there is a need for mastery to be a great outlier in entrepreneurship, right? Mastery comes from depth and focus. And for mastery to happen, ignorance is important. For ignorance to happen, subtraction is important, right? Jio will steal this idea of SIM, right? Subtract, ignore, mastery, right? So the question for both of you, coming back to our idea of, India has been the world's largest GDP until 400 years ago. We were 24% of world GDP. And that probably was because India had promoted mastery. And the way Indian education system was Gurukul education system, which really embraced mastery. So where I'm going at this is, deep inside, India had the ability to be entrepreneurs through mastery. Otherwise, there is no way India would have been the world's largest GDP. So somewhere deeply within, I believe, especially Indians, can bring their inner entrepreneurial capability much faster than any other being, because I think somewhere deep within, that ability and appreciation for consciousness and wisdom exists. We just have to kind of figure out a way to remove this layer of grossness of outer growth is inner success. And once that realization comes in, I think the mission that Pavan is on is creating the best entrepreneurs of the world, the school of best entrepreneurs of the world, not necessarily best services industry. I think I see this possibility of India producing the best entrepreneurs in the world. Do you see that coming? And why? Do you agree with the fact that when you see these young entrepreneurs, they have within them like deep appreciation for some of these aspects? And I'll ask Dr. Shailesh once.
Absolutely. Right from the school age, in fact, right? I mean, we teach for the schools also. So there, when we interact with a lot of students, everyone is talking about becoming and solving a problem, or they're picking up from their parents that, whatever they could not do, I really want to do. And also the exposure that they're getting, right? So now everyone knows about perplexity, they know about ChatGPT, they can build a website. All they just need is, what is the problem that I need to solve?
Correct.
Capital, it's sorted for them because even if at all they spend 5 years of their school fees, that becomes their seed fund for them, right? So already the parents are thinking about it, the students are thinking, the kids are thinking about it. All they need is, what's the problem that we can solve?
So yeah, I think we talked about Pawan. I think we talked about India being the epicenter of entrepreneurship, especially given that for centuries India was the largest GDP of the world, and which means that. And in addition to that, I mean, recently Forbes wrote an article that Indians make the best CEOs. And they said the Indian makes the best CEOs because of the empathy that they have for people and how they perceive work. So there's something deeper, what I believe that that entrepreneurship is there in a lot of how we look at things. Now, since that you interact with a lot of youngsters and you are on this mission of creating the largest entrepreneurship ecosystem, what do you see? How difficult is it to bring out the entrepreneurship, and how are you going about it?
Right. So definitely India needs more entrepreneurs. One is, and also we'll need more people that think entrepreneurial, not necessarily think their businesses, but any mission that they are part of, they should be entrepreneurial. And at Bauer, right from grade 3 onwards, we have a curriculum for entrepreneurship. Right, it's on entrepreneurship mindset. It's about problem solving, design thinking, financial literacy. Us giving exposure towards industries, giving exposure towards startups, all of that. So that awareness and education is something that we are betting very big on. And once you have an idea, giving the right ecosystem, it could be investors, it could be mentors. That is the second phase. Third is a capital deployment, right? I mean, if at all you are actually solving a problem, but that problem is not being scaled because of the capital. You're not able to have access to good capital. That also we are getting, right? So our mission is to have about 500,000 plus entrepreneurs, 500,000 entrepreneurs in the next 3 years through Bauer. And already we are, in the span of 1 year, we have about 12,000 plus students going through entrepreneurial curriculums, and about 120 plus ventures that have come out, that have already been out in the markets. They're in the revenue generation stage. So we had a good start, but we need people like you to kind of accelerate this and democratize this.
All right. So that was great. In closing, so if you are looking at whether entrepreneurship is right for you, and are you made out? Do you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? If you want to understand that, please fill up the form, and Dr. Shailesh can help in looking at whether is entrepreneurship right for you, right? Number. Number two, you are trying to study entrepreneurship. You want to have what it takes, and you want to do an audit of a class and go look at talk to other students who probably can give you some idea on what it took to be an entrepreneur. So visit Bauer. Pawan can make sure that you have the right experiences to see whether that education makes sense. Now, if you have an idea and you are working on it and you feel it's going to be a moonshot and a great idea and you need funding, I'm happy to look at it and see if it's worth funding. So please fill up the form and we'll shortlist a few and make sure that you get the right introductions. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Shailesh. Thanks, Pawan.
Thank you.